our stay in Beirut, we were able to travel around the Lebanese countryside, visiting a variety of destinations. Our first trip outside the city took us north to a spectacular waterfall. Renting a car was an experience in Lebanon, well summed up by this mug. The Lebanese terrain is very rugged, with roads to match. We hiked down into the Ba'atara Gorge and were stunned when we saw the waterfall. A narrow trail takes you around one side of a precipitous drop-off, but it's well worth the effort to get close to the falls.
After the waterfall, we stayed in a mountain hotel, then drove to the Cedars of God UNESCO World Heritage Site. These majestic trees, the national symbol, once covered the mountains of Lebanon. They are referenced in the Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh, Egyptian hieroglyphics, and 103 times in the Bible. Their lumber has been prized for millennia to build ships, temples, cities, railroads, etc. Today, overcutting has reduced their numbers to a mere fraction in protected lands like these. Elevated in the mountains at 2,000 meters or 6,600 feet, there was still plenty of snow around and even on the trails. The trail winds through the forest for about an hour's worth at a leisurely pace, past some spectacular trees that are all cataloged. Some of the highlights are these incredible faces and figures that are carved into dead trees. From the Cedars, we returned to the coast to the town of Biblos. Small, with only 40,000 inhabitants, Biblos has sat on the Mediterranean for over 7,000 years, one of the oldest cities in the world. From our hotel, it was a short walk to the old city. The heart of the old city is the souk, Arabic for marketplace. Normally full of shoppers, we were there in the morning before the crowds. The main reason we were in Biblos, of course, was the archaeological site. The Crusader Castle is the center of the site, but if you walk toward the water, you get treated to an amazing array of wildflowers. The castle was built by Crusaders during the 12th century as part of the county of Tripoli. Inside the medieval walls, a small museum highlights the city's archaeology, though more significant pieces are on display in Beirut. From atop the castle walls, over 7,000 years of civilization are laid out before your eyes. From the first prehistoric stone foundations to the Bronze Age Phoenician Temple of Baal and granite columns built by the Greeks. Romans built the theater overlooking the water. And after defeating the Crusaders, Arabs and Ottomans built the mosque and souk. South of Beirut, the city of Tyre is the fourth largest in Lebanon. Another ancient Phoenician port like Biblos, only the Roman parts are visible today. Even though the site is relatively small, the column-lined roads, once covered in mosaic tiles, that lead past the city ruins up to the sea are very impressive.
North of the Roman ruins, the modern port of Tyre is a great place to grab lunch from one of the many seafood restaurants that line the harbor. Nearby, the souk marketplace gives a glimpse into everyday life in Tyre, including what it takes to distribute electricity to the town. Sidon, Saida in Arabic, is another ancient Phoenician port city. The day we visited was during Eid al-Fitr, the Muslim holiday at the end of the month of Ramadan, so it was a huge family day out in Saida. The sea castle, originally built by Crusaders in 1228 and subsequently used by the Mamluks and Ottomans, was not in great condition, but it was still a very popular place to go. The water taxis back and forth to nearby islands were also busy. East of Saida, the Jezine Valley, Wadi Jezine in Arabic, is known for its steep slopes covered with dense pine trees. The town of Jezine is also known for its waterfall. The access was locked behind a gate, but that didn't deter our intrepid band of explorers. Or anyone else that day. The approach to the waterfall is dramatic, pushing against the end of the valley and the cliff rising almost 300 feet to the top. North of the falls, overlooking another valley, Bet ed-Din Palace was built in the early 19th century during the Ottoman period and served as an administrative building until 1943, when it became, and still is, the Lebanese president's summer home. Today, the complex is also a museum open to the public, and sometimes used for weddings. The palace is a great place to see examples of 19th century Ottoman architecture, design, and decor up close, which represents a significant chapter in Lebanon's history. About a 2-hour drive from Beirut, Baalbec is named for the ancient Semitic deity Baal, who's mentioned dozens of times in the Old Testament. Another ancient city dating back over 8,000 years, the ruins of Baalbec as seen today are from the Roman period. The first thing that struck us about the Balbec Ruins was the scale. Ancient buildings that survive for us to see are generally large, but the structures in Baalbec are on a whole other level, dwarfing anything that we've ever seen. And some of the largest stones ever known to be used in construction were used here. The most massive are estimated to weigh over 750 tons, which is more than 5 Statues of Liberty or 4 battleships. The most iconic part of the Balbec complex is the Temple of Bacchus, one of the best preserved and grandest of all Roman temple ruins. Dedicated to Bacchus, Dionysus for the Greeks, the god of winemaking, fertility, ecstasy, and theater. Some of these aspects overlapped with those of Baal, which may be why the Romans chose to include this temple here. Baalbec lies within the Bekaa Valley, Lebanon's most fertile and important farming region. Not surprisingly,
It's also the country's biggest wine region. Winemaking in Lebanon goes back 6,000 years, but the modern industry dates from the 19th century. We visited Chateau Crusader, Lebanon's oldest continuous operating winery and the largest. Founded by Jesuit priests in 1857, the modern winery building covers the entrance to more than 2 kilometers of caves that were dug by the Romans. Discovered by accident in 1898, the caves provide a perfect place for storing and aging Casara's wines.